Now that looked a lot more like the Indiana Pacers. They beat the Dallas Mavericks on the road by 7. Only a 7-point win. It was within 5 in the final minute, and yet maybe the Pacers' most comfortable win of the season. It was never within one possession in the final minute for the first time in one of their wins this year. They got it done on the road. They have now beaten, in a stat I find fascinating, last year's Eastern Conference and Western Conference champions this season. Shout out to the Pistons for being the Pacers' third win. They're 3-4 now. Good win for the Pacers for lots and lots of reasons. This win over the Dallas Mavericks. We're going to talk about it all here. If you're on this channel and you're here for Fever and Pacer stuff jointly, the Stephanie White press conference was earlier on Monday before the Mavs game. You can watch the whole thing right here, almost 30 minutes of it, and I'll have a story up on the next, probably tomorrow, about it. I also talked with President Kelly Krauskopf and White herself, one-on-one. So let's talk about Pacers Mavs. That's what y'all are here for. Best Pacers wire-to-wire performance of the season. That is what I think is the biggest, air quotes maybe, takeaway from this game, because two players were excellent and deserve lots of discussion today, and they'll get it in this video. But to me, what stands out about this game is for 48 minutes, the Pacers played Pacers basketball, right? They've had games where they looked good for lots of time. I thought for the second half of Orlando, they played pretty good. Most of the Celtics game, outside of maybe the last 8 minutes of regulation, they looked pretty good. For the Pelicans game, outside of 10 minutes in the second and third quarters, they looked pretty good. But they never had a 48-minute. That looked like the Pacers' performance. In this game, they had small defensive hiccups, I would say, but they were never trailing by more than 2 the entire game. And they were up as much as 13. They were up, 8 to 10 every single quarter at times, right? They were consistently on the Mavs. Their rim pressure was immense. Their speed was excellent. Their ball movement was very impressive, right? They did a lot of stuff that looked very Pacers-y. 76 points in the paint. That's how the Pacers want to play. 71 second half points, right? They just did a lot of stuff that looked very, very impressive and Pacers-y for 48 minutes without getting bogged down because of a lineup, without getting bogged down because of a Mavericks adjustment. They didn't have a cold spell that just totally sunk them like they did last Friday, right? That was what they needed to show. A game where for the whole game, the bench was a little wobbly, especially defensively, but they can walk away and go, yep, we played like ourselves, and we beat a good team as a result. And yes, the Mavs are banged up, but guess what? So are the Pacers, who were down a starter and both of their backup centers, obviously. No Nesmith. Andrew Nembhard did return, which was huge. But that was, I think, the most important thing that happened in this game, beyond a lot of individual performances that were noteworthy, was that the Pacers played like the team that everybody thought they'd be this year for 48 minutes in a win. And that is what they needed to show. The scene setting is important too. Andrew Nembhard returned, and I think that's massive for the Pacers, especially right now. Who knows how long Aaron Nesmith will be out with his left ankle sprain. But with Nesmith out and Jackson out and Wiseman out, if Nembhard couldn't go, the Pacers would have had basically 8 players that they would have been comfortable playing for extended minutes, And all 8 of those guys are good and were either in or around the rotation at times last year, but Jarris Walker and Ben Mathurin were not in the playoff rotation. It's just different. And the 9th guy would have had to be one of Enrique Freeman, Johnny Furphy, someone like that. So to have Nembhard back meant they could play 9 solid to good players the whole game too, and they were able to get it done. So that all sets the scene for what this game was. 48 minutes of good play. They had a credible rotation despite their injuries. And the guys who balled out kind of needed it. I wouldn't say they were having bad seasons necessarily, but just weren't as at the level you expect of them all the time. Myles Turner was the player of the game. He was sensational for the Pacers. Luka had more points and assists, but his defense was not very good. He was 9 for 24. Myles Turner had 30 points and 11 rebounds. Excellent game from him on the offensive end. Hit 5 threes, had touch in the paint as he went 5 for 9 on twos, made all of his free throws, right? That shot where he turns around and just has a little touch from 8 feet away, it's kind of escaped him this season up until this game. He was hitting it in this game, and the Mavs didn't have Derek Lively. They did have Gafford, who was fine, but Myles Turner really, when he stretched Gafford out, crushed him. So the Mavs went small a lot. Gafford only played 15 minutes. They tried Dwight Powell. That only happened for 7 minutes. So they were going small, like P.J. Washington at center, or Najee Marshall even, I think, snuck in some minutes at the 5, and he had a nice game. But Turner could shoot over them in the paint, right? So the setup the Mavs had, plus Myles Turner always seems to do well against or in Dallas. Last year, his season high was against the Mavs in Indianapolis when he had 33. 30 and 11 tonight. He was sensational the whole game. He had 2 poster dunks was hitting threes all night, 5 of them very crucial for a Pacers team that was only a little hot from deep, 40.6%. The Mavs actually shot a better percentage from 3, but the Pacers did so well with their rim pressure. They overcame that, and Myles was a huge part of it. He was awesome, by far his best game of the season. They needed him to be great. They need a center to be great, given their current injury outlook at that position without Isaiah Jackson and without James Wiseman likely for the season, although I guess not officially confirmed. Myles Turner up to the task in the first game, with that being the Pacers situation at the 5. By far his best game of the season. They needed him to be great, and he was. You know who else had their best game of the season? Very noteworthy was Tyrese Haliburton, who I think people have mixed up what the issue was for him against New Orleans, but he was awesome in this game. Tyrese Haliburton, 25 points on 16 shots, made all 8 of his twos. 8 for 8 on twos. 12 assists, only 2 turnovers. They won his minutes by 9 in a 7-point win. That says a lot about how well he played. 25 and 12, above average game for him last year, and he was struggling from 3 along the way. 2 for 8 from deep, hit his first one from super deep, and he was warming up with deep threes, so I wondered what that would end up looking like for him as the game progressed. They didn't end up falling too much. Neither did his free throws, just very peculiar, but he was carving the Mavs up in the paint, driving whenever he wanted. Whatever defender was on him, Luka, Kyrie, Clay, sometimes a forward, didn't matter. He got right past him, got where he wanted, and set stuff up with both scoring and finishing on his way to 25 and 12. Here's what I think people have gotten wrong. People have said, look at that. When he gets in the paint, he's way better. He was doing that against New Orleans. He was getting to the paint. He wouldn't shoot. That was the problem. He kept passing out over and over and over, even when he had decent looks. The problem wasn't his driving or rim pressure. It was what he was doing with it. In this game, he would take the right shots. He even had some nice floaters, one where he got fouled and hit it, one where he took a key jumper that iced the game in the final minute, right? That is what changed this game for him, was what he did when he got to the paint, not necessarily the paint pressure itself. So that separated this game for Haliburton, and he was by far his best game of the season. I think his 3rd or 4th game, double-double in a row with assists, so starting to have that offensive output you expect of him. The threes just aren't falling at the same rate. I believe they'll get there, but I've said that for a while, and it hasn't happened yet. Obi Toppin as the backup 5, certainly some defensive stuff that didn't click the way he would have wanted. That's going to be a major storyline to watch if the Pacers don't add someone there, but he was good on offense, came alive in the 4th quarter. TJ McConnell, excellent as well, with 12 points, 7 in double figures for the Pacers, all 5 starters, plus those 2 guys that I just said. Ben Mathurin in the second half came alive. That was really important for the Pacers, and Siakam just continues to be this metronome that is great every game. He was sensational against the Celtics. He's been the Pacers' best player this season, 23, 6, and 4 for him. Nembhard stepped up with some good defense on Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic when he drew those assignments. Everybody filled a role in this game. Jarris Walker had a key 3. Ben Shepherd defended his tail off. Pacers needed everything they could get to get back on track a little bit, and they got a win. Their first win, not on a Wednesday this season, which sounds stupid, but I found that to be funny. Their most complete performance, and it gives themselves a chance with their next 2 games against a banged-up Orlando team and then the Charlotte Hornets to pick up some momentum. We'll see if they actually do it, because they've had chances to do exactly that before the season and did not, but they have a chance now. They earned it with this win. We'll have so much more coverage of this team right on this channel. Thanks for watching. See you guys very soon with more coverage of the Pacers and the Fever.